going to have now a sequence of 4 conversations. But to start with the larger conversation, I want to introduce our next guest on the stage. He's the head of global payment solutions for BBVA. So please welcome with me on stage, Ignacio Bañón. Big applause. Thank you for being here, Ignacio.
Hey.
Pleasure. There you go.
How are you?
Super.
Good to see you.
Please join me here. So, how are you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Good. So, we've been talking about payments before, and we were talking about a bit of the trends of how COVID and the pandemic is shifting or accelerating the trend. But I would love to hear your take from inside the bank, right? You're responsible for this. How are you guys experiencing this?
Yeah, for payments for quite a few years has been experiencing constant change. I would say every year has been changing faster than the previous year. Even I would say about revolution. But now, of course, this year everything is upside down. I would say COVID is acting as a huge accelerator in payments. Basically, the theme is transforming cash payments into digital payments. That was an ongoing trend, but now it's changing really, really fast. Not only in the speed of adoption, but also in the depth of adoption. Digital payments is no longer something cool, something convenient. Now it's a must to survive, especially for SMEs, for businesses, right? And the bank is trying to cope with the crisis and adapt our solutions, our offerings to our customers, to our clients, to process this new way of people interacting and paying.
It kind of reminds me of when we used to talk about social media, right? And then suddenly social media was like, why are you talking about you having social media or sharing capabilities, right? That's part of the game. But it's interesting what you pointed out, because I'm getting this from a lot of, I'm guessing you're not fully technical, but you're in charge of the deployment and all these things. And from a product perspective, I'm seeing a lot of CTOs and a lot of people working with product that tells me, yes, it's accelerated, but it is also, as you said, it's touching on the depth of the product. We've had to change things because the regulation is changing, because the demands are changing. So how are you guys experiencing this from the inside? Have you had to really change part of the products or deploy new products very quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, it's to some extent trends we had in mind. Now we have to deliver really, really soon. To offer a payments product digital first was something aspirational, let's say. Now it's something we have to deliver tomorrow to everyone. We don't want people to get into the physical contact as long as we can. So in payments, we try to help merchants sell more. Now we have to help them sell online, for instance, accept digital payments and transit to the e-commerce. This is a huge challenge for our clients, and of course a huge challenge for us to cope with this. And we are working in specific products, launching specific products to accept payment with low cost in many markets, especially in developing markets in the world. And also not only provide e-commerce solutions, payment solutions to our merchants, but also guide them to how to do the transitions from physical to e-commerce. And it's something we have to do, let's say, as we speak. We don't have time. The time is now.
I don't envy your job right now.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
So very quickly, if you could share one priority area for the bank, for BBVA, that you would love to collaborate with startups? The one that comes to mind that you said, like, we need someone here to help us to partner up with. What would that be?
There's many of them, but if I have to choose one, it would be probably e-commerce.
E-commerce integration.
E-commerce is no longer something nice, something convenient. It's a must for consumers and especially for merchants.
Okay. Well, I'm getting signals here. Well, thank you very much. Stay here with me because you're going to be joined by the rest of the chat, and I think you guys all share some kind of similar perspective. So I want to welcome also, we have a couple of virtual connections, I believe. So hello, Michael. How are you doing? Jordi, you with me?
Hello.
Hello, guys. Yeah. Doing good?
Good, pleasure.
And now we have Amrita back with us. Hello, Amrita. So let me formally introduce all three of you. So we have Michael Treskow, partner at 8 Roads Venture out of London. We have Amrita Srivastava. Let me say this right. Okay, this one is hard. You keep making it hard for me. Srivastava, Head of Fintechs for Western Europe Mastercard. Amrita, thank you for joining. And last but not least, Jordi Pascual. Yours is easy, I'm afraid. He's eCommerce and Acquiring Payments Director at Banco Sabadell. So Amrita, so you work at Mastercard, you're a huge company, you're kind of in a way like the pipes and the infrastructure that connects a lot of the financial world. So how can someone become a partner with you guys? Because I'm hearing a lot of startups that they've been certified by Mastercard, that we're working with Mastercard, right? It's starting to appear like the seal of excellence is working with you guys. So how do you achieve that?
Essentially, I think if you look at Mastercard, right, it's our ethos to always keep expanding the network, right? Our mission or mandate is to make sure that we are enabling payments and choice, giving consumers choice of how they'd like to pay in a safe and secure manner. And the stakeholders have evolved, right? We have traditional players, we have big tech companies, and we have fintechs across the payments value chain, disrupting and providing different things. So for us, as we look at expanding this network, digitizing the whole thing, for us, fintechs is just, it's not something new, it's just a part of the ethos of how we're going to keep doing that. So we've recognized that it's always been in our DNA. So when we talk about how do we work with them, we started small. We started with a accelerate program back in like 2014 called Start Path, which was really picking up these fintechs from across the globe, giving them our access to our network of 200 companies. And that program over the years has grown to like 250 startups. We've invested over 3 billion. That was kind of the first venturing into fintechs and working with the startup community. Since then, you'll see we've launched Mastercard Developers, which is giving tech companies access to our payments, data, and security services. Then we have the Mastercard Engage, I think is what you're referring to a little bit, which is where we are kind of building our role, right? Our role is to be the infrastructure, the connector, be at the core of the DNA and provide best-in-class services and connect those vendors there. And that's a Mastercard Engage program. And then this all comes under what we call Fintech Express. So I know you heard Wirex speak earlier, talking about how we help them go to market. And so really the idea behind Fintech Express is how can we help traditional, non-traditional customers partner with best-in-class technology and fintechs to help them get to market faster. And all of these 4 programs come under our Mastercard Accelerate program, which is accelerating for fintechs.
It's interesting because there's like this thread with a lot of these big organizations where you guys started working with startups and innovation some time ago, right? And now it feels that it's kind of paying off finally. You know, all those evangelists saying, we need to do startups. And you could hear like the rolling plant going there in the desert, like no one answering. So it's
I mean, I would like to think that maybe there was foresight when we did it. I mean, that's a lovely thought, but I think it comes to, it's an iterative and evolving proposition, right? And I think what all large organizations, and I know Mastercard does this really well, we have to keep our ears to the ground to understand what's going on, right? And that's how we learned. First, we learned, okay, we need to learn to speak the same language. Then we learned, oh, you know what? These tech startups actually want access to our data and insights. Okay, let's try and figure out how we do that. Oh, okay, Mastercard endorsement means something. Oh, they want us to enhance our processes. So it's been a learning curve for us as well. I would love to say that 6 years ago, someone had the vision, this is how it's going to chart out over the next decade. I'd love to take credit for that, but the reality is it has to keep evolving.
Hey, you need to say this, right? You get the money, and for everything else, Mastercard, right? Michael, this is, I know this is going to be a tough question, but as an investor, you have a lot of companies in your portfolio, and probably not all the companies are hurting the same during the pandemic. So what's the current status of your portfolio? How are your companies coping with the current situation?
Good question. It's pretty diverse. So, you know, we're fortunate enough, we have about 250 portfolio companies that are across the world, you know, anywhere from Japan to India to Europe to the US. So we have a pretty good macro view, and some of the companies have been hit earlier, like in China, and there was an opportunity in the portfolio to learn from each other. I would say, to answer your question, it really depends on the company and the sector exposure. Some are hurt a little bit because they are focused on sectors like travel or hospitality, which, as you can imagine, are not seeing as much activity, whereas others are doing really well because they are either in e-commerce or providing the underlying plumbing, like some of the payments company we've talked about. And as you can imagine, those are doing really well. And that creates sort of a nice balancing out, I would say, where as a whole, the portfolio is doing really well, considering that we are in a pretty difficult macroeconomic situation.
Jordi, now I'm with you. You're kind of like specialized also in e-commerce, and it's interesting because Ignacio was just referring a moment ago about the critical aspect of engaging the future of e-commerce and how the pandemic is accelerating that. So what is your take on that as a future innovation in that space, as someone that's literally working in that space for the bank?
Yeah, actually, the world of payment has been in constant innovation for many years. New players, regulations, new consumer payment habits, they are forcing us to evolve. Now, with the health crisis has caused by the COVID, that we have seen is that many traditional face-to-face small merchants, they have realized that they need a new way to interact and selling with their customers. And probably they don't want to create an e-commerce, or they don't want to have their own website, because that the industry has provided solutions like the payments by link, that it permits to pay in social networks, in WhatsApp, in Viber, or payments by SMS, or to pay by phone. The way to move this kind of merchants to the e-commerce, the remote to remote channels without to go to e-commerce. For me, that also I'm a specialist in face-to-face transaction. For me, it's really important the new role of the POS Android devices with cameras and with other technology devices. This kind of POS will permit to add apps for third company in addition to the traditional payment ones. And it's a new world that we will be open for the introduction of these apps through the POS in Android.
No facial recognition, please. No facial recognition, no biometrics. Don't go there. So, Jordi, very quick question to finalize this, because we're running out of time. When I think about e-commerce, and especially when we talked a moment ago in one of the previous chats about these kind of transactions that are happening inside apps, right? And under the umbrella of an app like WeChat or Alipay and all this stuff that's happening also in Asia. So I wonder, fiat currencies or digital currencies? Are we going to see one versus the other one? Are we going to see digital currencies actually taking over certain transactions around e-commerce?
Yeah.
I love it's like, I need 3 minutes for this.
Good question. Yeah. The problem, obviously, digital currencies is a new future, is new possibilities. But at the end, we are a bank that the more small merchants or large merchants of Spain go through us. At the end, that they are looking for is for the currencies that they can manage for every day. And fiat currencies at this moment is the main necessity. Obviously, they are open to new things, but they are very cautelous. That they are. Have in mind that they are traditional merchants, that they are moving to the e-commerce, and because that his position is to see everything, but at this moment they are still with the fiat coins thinking about that.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Jordi, and we need to close this wonderful chat. So, Michael, Amrita, Jordi, thank you so much for joining us digitally from all over. And Ignacio, absolutely a big pleasure having you on stage here. It's always good to see the heat. Thank you very much, guys. It was a pleasure.